So we all know that workers' comp in California is considered the exclusive remedy for injuries that happen on the job. Oftentimes there's carve-outs for that though. Sometimes we have injuries that are actually caused by the negligence of a third party, and it happens at work. And so oftentimes people are put in a position where they actually have two cases, which means they can actually file a lawsuit against the employer, which is workers' comp, and they can also proceed in a lawsuit against a negligent party. We see that oftentimes this is a driver operating another motor vehicle. It can be the manufacturer of a product like a saw or a tool. It can also be a landlord or a property owner that negligently maintains a property. So there's a lot of different circumstances where someone can be hurt on the job and it's caused by a third party. And then oftentimes the question comes up, how do I resolve both cases? What happens if I get a settlement from workers' comp, or what happens if I get a settlement from personal injury? Well, there's a couple different issues. The first is what's called a lien or credit. And oftentimes the defense in a workers' comp case will assert a credit for whatever you receive in your PI case. And it's not about the gross amount, it's just what ultimately you're paid in the settlement after attorney's fees and costs are taken into account. So for example, if you were to receive a personal injury settlement and you received $100,000 after your attorney's fees and costs, work comp would file a petition for credit in the Work Comp Appeals Board to say that they shouldn't owe any more money until you use up that $100,000 that you received from the negligent third party. It works the other way as well. Workers' comp may pay you a certain amount of benefits, and ultimately the third party will want credit for that. And oftentimes that means actually paying back the work comp carrier. And so oftentimes if you do file a third party lawsuit, the work comp carrier will file what's called a subrogation case, or they'll file a lien on your personal injury case, because ultimately if they were the ones that paid out on the case, but it was due to the negligence of a third party, they're entitled to get their money back. And oftentimes there's rules and regulations that restrict how much they can get back. For example, if your injury was actually caused by a negligent third party, but also your employer's negligence. Your employer's ability to recoup their costs is proportionately reduced to their percentage fault. So that means if your employer is 50% at fault and they have $100,000 in costs, they may only be able to recover 50% of that. And that's something that happens generally at the end of the case. But you should know that you can't double dip, which means you can't receive both from the negligent third party and a work comp carrier for the same exact thing. However, there are certain rules and regulations that go along with either defeating the claims or negotiating them down significantly to give you the best result possible. But generally speaking, again, you can't recover from both, and you should be aware of that.